Funding for science and technology. That's one of the departments of the Department of Defense when they have science and technology, because what the Department of Defense does, it goes to something like MIT with a project, and that project is maybe a robots or something like that. And they're looking for these schools who accept funding from the U.S. military to develop something or do research on something. Robotics, 3D printing. How many schools can have a 3D printer that's the size of a small truck, a van? Oh yeah, yeah. And they need research done on how practical those things are on a military base and what they can produce, how long it can be used, what type of metals that can be used. Some instead of having stainless steel on something, can it be brass, bronze, clothing? You might have that thing, if your school gets a contract on specified clothing and research on everything in the military right now can be researched on, and people apply for grants to do these research things. And the Congress has, let's see, the DoD asked for $16 billion for science and technology research. And the Congress, which is really interesting, both the Republicans and Democrats upped the thing to $22 billion for the 22-23 year. And it is a thing. Many schools, I said, MIT is one of them. Local universities do it. All the big schools do it. A lot of small schools do it too. It may be small funding. I went to a state school back a long time ago, and they had, well, get this, they were doing research on how to identify the remains of American soldiers in Vietnam. Remains? Yeah, not everybody came back as a whole piece, you might say. ID things, and if they were crispy, burnt, sorry about that, burnt, there's literally no ID. And they wanted to find out, the state university, that thing, they wanted research on that. It was the state university wasn't the only one doing. Other state universities had the same thing. Different levels of master's and doctorate degree students were working on these projects. One of the things I remember that being down there looking at something called protein. Oh, and I also saw it at a food company with the strips and that thing. Right. Right, and there was a guy from that thing who got his Nobel Peace Prize when he developed the DNA, how to do it. Oh, yeah. So that's what he was doing. At one time, they were into diseases. One of the large universities in Chicago was studying biological diseases for plants. Huh? Yes, well, of course, they're down at the where there was farms in it. They were studying plants because they were running into diseases. They never something came in. Okay, those who remember the longhorn beetle, yes, from China. In Illinois, it was reported like 20 million trees had to be cut down and burned. You don't know it, you know it. One specified tree. What was the ash tree? All over the state. I mean, it's almost like within 2 years, it spread that fast. And you need to have research on that thing. You're looking for funguses on on wheat, corn. It's ongoing research, and because it is important, and somebody has to fund this stuff. And DOD says, "Hey, will you do research on this?" Because it's a food crop, and if you look at Americans, they're around the world, and they go to places where it's awful hard if they have to get local stuff. You know, if they can cure a plant disease in a country, it's great PR. But funding is really hard, and every year you write new grants for funding. How much by that the university had? Well, they were also working on other stuff too. One of the things they got funding from the Drug Enforcement Agency on how to find a way to get rid of marijuana plants. And it looks like somebody has it because there's a fungus out there. How to get rid of marijuana plants. But then, of course, you have the other what's attacking our corn, what's attacking this, and what's attacking that. Right? You want to do research? Everything is affected that way. But that's it, and it's really hard. Now you got that thing is how cyber warfare protecting military equipment from cyber warfare. It's not just listening in on something, it's taking a virus, uploading it into a computer, and killing the computers. I believe Iraq had that problem with their gas centrifuges. You had 50,000 gas centrifuges in Iraq, not Iraq, but Iran, and somebody uploaded a virus in it, and they spun faster than they were supposed to. And they literally ripped themselves out of their cylinders. And then what happened was all their computers attached to this stuff all went blank because the virus in there basically changed the integrated circuits inside and kill them. They blame that on Israel. It could be in Saudi Arabia too, or Turkey, or Italy. That's the thing. Yes. And you'd have another one they do research is how to prevent U.S. military equipment from being stolen off base. Now they say, well, you put a little chip in it, you glue it down inside, and when that item moves through the gates, it sets off an alarm system with a tracking device. So the big problem is military hardware leaves, and that can be very expensive. Oh well. I think that's about it for science and technology.